Hello, and welcome to A Holistic Approach to Education. My name is Jan Tanke, and I will be your host today. Our goal is to inform, inspire, engage, and empower. Today's segment will be a hot topic, distance learning. Our guests today are Jeanette Ari, and she has taught for 30 years and is currently teaching kindergarten. She has taught kindergarten, first, second, and third grade at 3 school sites. She has been a reading recovery teacher, is CLAD and GATE certified, and has supervised student teachers. Next, we have Kamara Bedney, and she has taught for 35 years, mostly grades 4 through 6. She has taught at several schools, one that has emphasized the arts and one that is an environmental science magnet. She also has supervised teachers. Monique Brandon has been teaching for 26 years, grades TK through 8th grade. She is currently teaching kindergarten. Monique has taught in public, private, and now in a public charter school. She taught PE to 10 schools per week at one point in her career. She took 20 years off and on to complete her master's requirement. She will now earn her preliminary credential in a few months. Next, we have Jackie Lacy, and she has been teaching for 28 years. Her current assignment is environmental education resource teacher and program specialist demonstration teacher. She has taught first, a 2-3 combination, a 4-5 combination, a 5th grade, a 5-6 combination, and 6th grade. She is a PAR consulting teacher, a teacher induction mentor, and EE teacher. She's received an honorable mention award from the EPA for environmental education in 2013 and a Monty Award. Her rabbit ate the internet cord. She's kissed a sea cucumber and made at least 100 loaves of zucchini bread with students. Carrie Rogers has been teaching since the early 90s. She taught kindergarten and 2nd grade full-time for several years. She has tutored the lowest scoring students in a 3rd grade class to help push the grade level scores up for testing. Has tutored math and science during the after-school program, has subbed in preschool through TK, has subbed in preschool and TK through grade 12. Last year, she opened a year in kindergarten, which was a long-term assignment. This year, she opened the school year in transitional kindergarten, which was a long-term assignment, and that was distance learning. She is highly requested as a sub in several districts. So I want to welcome you all, and I'm really excited to have you here. And the first question I'd like to ask is, how did you initially feel when you realized that you had to teach through distance learning? How did it change your teaching, how your life, and what concerns did you have? Who would like to start off with that? I will pick somebody if you like.
I'll start.
How about you, Jeanette?
Okay. Back in March when we started distance learning, it was actually a very scary time. I was not familiar with using Google Classroom, and technology hasn't always been one of my strengths, so it was actually pretty scary for me. I had a lot of support from my coworkers and principal, trainings from the district, and it was a lot of hours, very, very tiring. And we were just kind of thrown into it, and we did our best.
That's all you can do.
Yes.
Monique, what about you when you first heard that you have to do distance learning?
It was, quite a shift. And my experience was that I had to do the recording of the phonics videos, and then I was a TA for live teaching. So I had the combination of both things going on. And I found that it was jarring, honestly, just the change and then not being there for the kids. But I will say that the district that I work for, we really came together as a team. And, we got it done in the springtime. So that was good. It's been a little stressful starting off this year, though.
Oh, more stressful than March when you start, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go next.
Yes,
I'll
please. Yes, please.
So for me, I think this has been one of the most incredulous times of my life and all of our lives as we're venturing into this new virtual learning thing. But especially for me, I service all of the students at our school. I see all of them for science. and I didn't have my own classroom, and I felt some separation anxiety, and also kind of a, what do I do now? How do I earn my keep, and how do I impact the kiddos when I don't even have my own classroom, you know? So I had to change my whole approach, which is all hands-on, to making videos and trying to just engage students to get them excited through this whole media system. So it's been challenging, most definitely.
So you're not making zucchini bread with them this year, huh?
No, but I did make a zucchini bread video this year and post the
Oh.
recipe so students could do that at home if their
Oh,
families were able to.
That's nice. Well, that sounds like you guys have kind of conquered a lot of what you felt initially. So one other thing, I know that some of you are in the same district and some of you are in other districts. So what kind of programs are you using, and how are you adapting to those programs? How are your students adapting to those programs? And I know there's various grade levels involved here too. And how are the parents feeling about the whole thing? I know, yes, Carrie, would you like to? Yes.
So the district where I did the TK used WebEx. They didn't use Google Classroom. And I started the school year, they called me and asked me to come after they already began. So they had to hire 2 subs who started after school began because they didn't know their enrollment. And so the TK and the Ks were mixed together. And the 2 teachers who were the full-time teachers decided to keep everybody together in one large group until the other teachers were hired. And so they did set a very good foundation for us when we took our groups. Having never used the technology before, we had to build the airplane while we were learning to fly it. We had to learn Google Classroom. We had to learn Flipgrid. We had to learn Seesaw while learning how to take what we did in person and do it digitally, and also bringing the parents into transitioning from what was already established with the other teachers they'd been with for a few days to our style of teaching. And the other teachers had their classrooms already established in March. So they already had relationships with those kids in person. This year they're starting digitally, not knowing their kids because it's kinder. It's not like you had a relationship with them before. The families could have been new to the school. And so they had training with professionals who taught them how to use the digital platforms, and the 2 subs just had to dive in and make it work. And so that was extremely challenging. And then working from home and not having your own classroom, there were no resources for us to pull from. It's you, the computer, the chair, and the live feed to the classroom. You know, there was nowhere for me to go to pull anything in. So that was just such a sharp learning curve. But, you know, you do what you have to do. And then the parents are just so very understanding, and they were also struggling with the technology also. And so there was it was very unified. I felt it was very unified with the parents and with the administrator. Everybody was on board with trying to make it work.
That sounds like you had a fairly positive experience.
Yeah, in terms
of kind of got the technology
understanding, and and the people who have more than one child, and particularly, let's say if they were all primary, the parents were constantly in motion, going from one child to the other, because if a student received instruction from a parent and from the teacher, and the parent wasn't standing there to hear what the teacher wanted, and they asked the student, well, what are you supposed to do? And, you know, they couldn't necessarily answer because they're 4 or 5 or 6, you know, and the parents are constantly trying to keep up with every bit of instruction that was going on simultaneously, and that was hard for them. So as an instructor, I felt like, well, we need to work together to make things work so, they can actually accomplish something and feel comfortable.
Hmm. Wow. Anybody else? Because I know that's one district, another district that can talk about what programs you used.
I can start. Last year, I started out as a distance learning teacher, and I was already familiar with Google Classroom because I'd used it for a couple of years. However, I did not know other programs such as recording yourself, and I was completely nervous about that. So I actually used YouTube a lot to learn how to use other programs. And that was a little nerve-wracking. But not only that, then I also had to teach the children, let's say math, and I had to have 3 devices. I had an iPad and I had 2 other computers where I could see the class, and I also could see the board I was using. And then I would record the lessons so that they could access them again. My parents were great. This year, I'm in a different role. My title would be Family and Teacher Support. So I don't have a classroom this year, and I really interact with the parents a lot more. And I do find that they do have a lot of questions on technology. But from what I did last year, it helps me to guide them through the process and what they need to do. And I'm always accessible by the phone or texting me, which I think helps a lot because the teachers are trying to teach and the parents can have direct access to me anytime they really need me. And I usually will get back to them. And you hear a lot of them surviving. It was like Carrie said, they may have 5 or 6 kids all on different devices, meeting with their classes all at different times. And then they might have a technology problem on one, maybe a computer isn't working, maybe the internet's not working. And part of my job is to solve those technology problems or contact someone else who can get them something, get them appointments, whatever they need, I try to solve. And the last part of my job is to find kids who are not interacting. And so I call myself the kid wrangler, and we go and we look for them. And if we don't see them, our administrator is very good about going and doing home visits. If they're not doing class assignments, if they're not showing up for class, he's actually gone out to their homes to see like what's going on. And you can find that, I think one family, they actually had cases of COVID going on. And so we check on our families. I think she's made numerous calls checking on families, and we've started something new where we're actually making positive calls home for kids who are interacting and coming on every day. And the teachers have a message and the families get excited and they put you on speakerphone so that everyone can hear the teacher's message about their child. So distance learning, I think the hard part is making sure you stay connected. And I think the school that I'm at, the teachers are very engaged with the families. And then the team that I work on, we're very engaged with the families. And it has really helped.
So it sounds like a big help. Monique, did you have something to add?
I was going to piggyback on that. The fact that where I'm working, we do have that community, that sense of community. 100% of our home visits are done. We do home visits where they've been Zoom visits this time. But we do have open communication with the parents. And I just have to take my hat off to parents because, yes, I do think about the fact when they have more than one child and all of that's going on. And they've had to take on the role of teacher in such a huge way. And I think when you have that open communication, and I have seen that teachers committed, parents committed, administration doing whatever is required, because this is like this whole new territory, and personally for me, at first I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, because I have a dual monitor situation. I've got Zoom here, I've got Class Dojo. They want me to give points, they want me to teach, they want me to, it's like a three-ring circus. It's amazing what's being expected of you. And at first I'm like, I don't think so, and I had to really rework my mind. I'm like, you can do this, so distance learning does work, and we do have situations where some kids aren't showing up. So I wish we had someone like Kim Bentley on our staff that could, we do have folks making calls and things like that, but I do grow concerned about the students that aren't being reached.
Yeah, that's
I would agree with you. Kim and I work on this team, and I think things that have changed for me is I've been repurposed a little bit. I still am serving students, and I'm still meeting with them, trying to teach them the best that I can. But I'm also making a lot of these phone calls, and it's interesting when you talk to a family and you just say, "Hey, I'm just calling to check in." First they're a little apprehensive, because there's a negative connotation with a phone call home from school. And then when I say, I'm just here to, I want you to know I'm here, and if you need anything, you can almost hear the sigh of relief. And then to know that somebody's on your side, I just think it's made a huge impact, because Monique, like you said, our families are really picking up a lot of the educational slack that we can't do because we're not with their students. So I think the change is that we are all part of the system. And I think that the families that have embraced it, and the schools, the teachers that have embraced that we're all together in this, it's been a little bit of a smoother transition for those students.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like, yes, Jeanette.
I was just going to add to what everybody is saying. I totally agree. I, feel for everybody. And with having kindergarten, my students don't really know any different at this point. A lot of them have not been to school before. I had one parent tell me that her child told the nurse at the dentist office that he's in fake school. And I had to, no, baby, this is real. This is it. But for the families, and they have been handling this amazingly. I've tried to really take on the brunt of, we in our district navigate through Clever, and then you go to the reading platform and you go to the math platform. And I just could not imagine my little 4 and 5 year olds, because I had some 4 at the beginning of the year, trying to navigate through all of that. So fortunately, as we started the new school year, they were able to have their books, their consumable books. So this time around, I'm able to just put assignments on our Google Classroom. They have their hard copies with them, and I can just ask them to upload their assignments. If it's anything that I can't or they don't have, I can just screenshot the stories that they need to be reading for that week, post them on the Google Classroom, and I've just been so proud of how they've been handling this. I don't know how they could do it any better. It's hard, but they're doing a great job.
Sounds like you're all making it. Sounds like you're all making the adjustments and the changes that are necessary in order to be successful. So that's good. But I know in March, you had a class from September or August of the year prior, and then they went home, and then you never saw them again, as compared to you starting with the new class this year, starting from scratch. And I know, Monique, you kind of touched on that, starting is harder for you, starting with a class you didn't know. But how does everybody else, or how, if you have something else to add, Monique, or how do you feel about the difference compared to having a class you already knew in March to starting off a brand new year with a class you've never met?
Well, yeah, because of that, you already knew the children, you knew the families, so there was that dynamic of already knowing each other. And yeah, the shift of going to the new school year and having to learn, and yes, it's great to teach TK and Kinder, because in a way they don't know any better, right? So they are younger and they're just taking it in, but it's also hard because they're 4 and 5 years old and they're sitting in front of a computer. So I've done Go Noodle, we do a lot of dancing, you got to do a lot of moving around to make it interesting. So there's been a shift from the spring to the fall because of those things. Yeah, there's been that challenge.
So when you do Go Noodle, are you just playing Go Noodle?
No, I get up
What
and
are you doing?
dance. No, you have to move with them. You know, it's one of those things where I actually lost weight, thank goodness, because but you have to dance with them. You have to watch the crowd. You have to know your kids enough to know where I'm losing them right now. So let's shift gears. And you have to do it quite a bit online because again, you can't expect 4 and 5 year olds to sit there for 10, 12, 15 minutes and think they're going to be engaged the whole time. So learning that too has been quite a challenge, learning how to navigate that and to make sure that the learning still is going on. And I do have Clever too, and we're using Seesaw instead of Google Classroom. And having to walk the parents through, I just put them on Zoom with me, and we will walk through Clever. This is what you need to click on here. This is what you need to do here. So it has to be, sometimes you have to like get in there, call the library. My family needs a hotspot because they can't get on, So we have to kind of jump in there and just do the best we can, basically.
I'm gonna piggyback on what you're saying as far as not having that connection with the families before. I have had to do quite a few of communicating with the teachers of this year of students that I've had, because they're not sure if the problems they're having is because of distance learning or is it just that student. So once we've either chatted, I've sometimes called the parents myself regarding the child, because I've known the child, and just kind of follow up the teacher's communication with them. And I've attended numerous meetings for students who have been referred for different programs, and numerous surveys that describe the child's characteristics or behaviors, because the teachers really don't see that child 360 as an in-person school. So I think that's probably just kind of one of the barriers of not having that personal in-person relationship with the students, that you really know that student inside and out. You only know what you're seeing and whatever communication you're having through distance learning.
Interesting.
That's been a big topic, I know, in our staff meetings also. Getting to make those connections the best you can through this, platform here. I know with my kinders, when I tested them in the beginning of the year, they were just looking at me like, who is this person I'm staring at? And, now that I'm report card testing one-on-one, I mean, they're so open now, and you make sure you pick up on those things that you can connect, how's that puppy, and you want to make sure that they know you know about them, and that, I think that's very, very important for us to do.
Very cool. Jackie, did you have something? Yes.
I was just going to say, I'm in a fortunate position where I have known many of our kids from kindergarten through 6th grade. And I've known some of these families for, 15 years, depending on the age of their siblings. So having that connection has been very comforting to many of our families. They've reached out and they're just very thankful that I know them. If I see one of the older siblings will pop in during one of our Google Meets that I'm on, and I'm able to say, hey, how you doing? How is this? Whatever they're into, what they're doing is, I can see that smile, and they're just very thankful to have it. The other thing I've done in my position that is different from before is that I have some social time at the end of the week where students can log in, and it's more of a social hour where they can chat with me, they can chat with the counselor comes on, teachers come in, and they can talk to their peers. And that has been a very positive, they'll tell me at the beginning of the week, I can't wait till Friday, so between the phone calls home to the families and the interaction and just knowing these kiddos, I think we've made some impacts, even though we're not together. And I will say one thing this week, because the kinders and the TKs are my new kiddos that I don't know that well, but I ran into one of our kindergartners. He was so shocked that I was real. It was amazing. His eyes were so big. He's like, Mrs. Lacy, it's really you, because he's 5. He's never seen me in real life. So it was very entertaining for me, and I don't know, just a really cool moment. So
I want to add on to what Jackie is saying. And we're at the same school site, but there are many of the parents I've talked to were students that I've taught.
mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
when I've made that call, they're like, Mrs. Bedney, do you remember me? Because now they have children at Kimbark. So like Jackie said, when you've been there a long time and you've been with these various families or you've taught in various families, you already have that connection. So many times my administrator, he will specifically say, can you call this family? Because I've already had that connection with that family through the years. And in one family, my daughter works with one of the mothers. So you also have that community connection as well. So I personally feel that our communication level at our school site is amazing. But one reason is because many of the teachers have been there for a lot of years. So, and many students have come back to Kimbark when their parents have been there, or we've had families come through for years. And I believe that's helped with the distance learning. Our attendance rate is close to 98% for the first month of everyone attending or being engaged in their distance learning education. So it's been good.
Right. I think that does make a difference, having that community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another thing I'd like, if you had to give advice to other teachers, like somebody who may not be feeling as positive as you all seem to be feeling about distance learning, what kind of tips or tricks or advice would you give them? Because it is something that you've learned through this process.
Well, I've learned that nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important for the kiddos to see that we're struggling as well, that we're real people, that we have feelings, that sometimes the technology doesn't work quite right, just like them, and we talk about that. Seriously, the day that my rabbit ate the internet cord, I was teaching a kindergarten lesson and they were all engaged, and all of a sudden I froze, and I thought for sure it was, everybody's having technical issues. So I'm texting the teacher, I'm really sorry. And then we found out that actually the rabbit had eaten the internet cord. And for that the teacher said that was an amazing moment in her class when she told her students that it was the rabbit. Oh my gosh. She said she wishes she could have recorded the look on their faces. It was priceless. So I think just being authentic and real, that we're all, and letting your kids know, I love you. I'm struggling, you're struggling, but we're together, so that they just feel that community, even though we're not physically together.
I love that. I think, we do social emotional lessons. So we check in every morning with each other and how we're feeling. And yeah, I believe in being real, with the kids. I think that's so, so important. And yes, there are a lot of technological moments. I've had a lot of moments with Zoom, and, we talk about being persistent and, not giving up. And I think that's the main thing. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Make sure that you have set boundaries, that you do stop working after a certain point, because you are working at home, and it just bleeds into your whole life if you don't let it, if you allow it. And I've had to work on that one myself. So, and then you can stay in the joy more if you're taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that when I'm calling parents, a lot of them feel like they're being failures or they're failing their kids. And it's been important to reassure them that they're not. And teachers as well, there's that flip side, and it's to reassure them. I pop into various teachers' classrooms looking for kids, and I see amazing lessons going on. And I see amazing engagement of students that I've seen through the years who don't always engage in regular school. So everyone is doing the best they can, and I try to reassure the parents that they're not failures. They're doing the best they can to support their children. Some parents are trying to work at home Some parents are juggling working outside the home because they're essential workers, and the small ones need somebody sitting by them in order for them to engage and understand what's going on. So I think the challenge is everybody knowing that you are enough. And it's a process that everyone is going through, and no one has it completely 100% right. And if you reassure everyone that, then they can feel some level of success.
Now, I can imagine how hard it is to stop working because even as a teacher, I was a teacher in the classroom. I still took stuff home. I tried not to, or I would stay late at school and try to finish up what I needed to do, and I'd be there too late. So I know that's got to be very difficult because your classroom and your home are the same. So that's got to be.
Yeah, you're always connected.
Yes.
You're never not connected. I know when we went into March, I'd be at 11 o'clock at night texting someone back.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want the parents to feel isolated and left on their own. And so it was important to me to make sure I maintained that connection even 11 o'clock at night, which was not good.
Mm-hmm.
It was taxing because you can't walk away as easily.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I'm being recorded.
Okay, well, I know I was going to ask specifically Carrie. I know since she is a substitute teacher, that as a sub, you're kind of representing all subs. But what do you think would make it easier for a substitute teacher to to jump in a situation where they may not even know the students, or how do you get the lesson that you're supposed to do from the teacher? Where did the teacher leave off, and what do they want you to do? So how do you kind of go about, what do you suggest districts or school sites do for subs to help?
I have not done day-to-day yet.
Okay.
So the only experience I have is as the long-term.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't know what grade you're going to have, you're going to have to buy supplies because the district is not going to give you anything. They're not, because you're not full-time.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to spend your own money. And, if you need to perhaps have a cutoff of the grade levels that you're going to do, because you can't have a school's worth of supplies hit your house. And so it might depend on what kind of plans they leave. Just like when you show up at a regular school, sometimes teachers don't have anything planned, but you can pull from resources in the room. But if you're at home, you're going to have your own resources. Mm-hmm. And so it can get expensive, which is why I would say you might need to limit what you're willing to do. Because some people will teach any grade, but you can't afford to purchase materials to teach anything. And so you might need to develop a plan for yourself to say, I'm going to only teach primary or whatever grade level you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And go from there, because it's you, the chair, and the desk, and the computer, and that's it.
So also, as a sub, did you know how to do all of the programs that that particular district was using? So how did you go about learning that?
Well, one district I'm in has a union, so they actually do training. That is the only district that does anything for us. Okay. But it was one training on Google Classroom, and I requested that we get sample plans so we could see what it looked like when we were called to work, and they didn't provide it. So, they told us how to turn things on and off once, and I wouldn't have felt comfortable taking a class for 6 hours. The camera goes on and you're on and you have to make it work. And I didn't feel that was sufficient, and it wasn't. But the other districts I work in, there's no, they just want you to show up. They want a body in the seat. And so I don't know how they imagine that we're supposed to get it done. But the place where I worked, I have history with those people, which is why they called me to do it, and they supported me. But you know, it's just like being a sub you have to be flexible and just get in there and do it. And even when I'm in the class in person, I'm very direct with the kids. I don't care how old they are. The way I'm talking to you is the way I talk to the kids.
Mhm.
And I'll tell them, you know what, I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
Mhm.
Or they'll tell me how something works. Even in person, they will help each other with things that I don't understand.
Mhm.
But for the long term, I said, well, you know what, guys, and the parents too, I'm going to try sharing my screen. Let's see if it works. I had to use my own computer. Then the district gave me one, and that did not work. And the parents, everybody's like, just get off of that thing. I said, okay, we're logging out. Give me 4 minutes. I'm going to trade back to my computer, and everybody log back in. We just had to try stuff.
Mhm.
And I just have to be direct. I mean, it's not a show. And I also have to say that in person.
Mhm.
I'm not putting on a show. I'm not acting or performing. This is it.
Mhm.
And so the parents were thankful, and anything that I could train the kids to do technologically, I did, because I didn't want the parents to feel that they had to sit there. I trained them to turn the computer off and on, to mute and unmute their mics, to plug in their headphones. I focus on that in the beginning, because I focus on independence when I'm in the classroom, because their parents aren't there. They have to push in their chair and clean up and wash their hands and do all that. I want the same type of structure online, because parents have other things to do besides sit there and listen to a TK lesson. So eventually you saw the parents start to, fade into the background, because they did have other things and other kids. And so, I finally got the kids to mute and unmute when they wanted to say something or raise their hand, and so just be direct, just tell people this is how it is.
Mhm.
And if the link didn't work, then I'll put it in the Google Notes. And then if you want to go to, if you need to go to Seesaw or Flipgrid, I just put everything in one spot. And then when they were offline, asynchronous, every link was in there, and they could log in, and anything we did during the day was available to them. So if they missed something, if their signal dropped or anything like that, the whole day's lessons and every link, every video, every assignment, they could go back in and work around their own work schedules to get things done. And that's my approach.
Well, sounds like it worked. Sounds like it works for you.
It had to work for me. I mean,
Right.
because I know that some people, technology, a lot of people are sharing one Wi-Fi signal with 4 or 5 kids.
Mhm.
It's gonna drop. They're gonna miss something. So I just made it so that it was on demand. It's like, Netflix and everything's on demand now. So I don't see why education couldn't be.
Mhm.
And that was my approach.
Very good. Well, what I'd like to know from you all now, is there something that you've done in distance learning that when school opens back up, you're going to take that, whatever it is, and take it into your classroom when you're face to face with students? Something that you just think is great since you've done distance learning.
I actually like to work with slides. I didn't really do that in the classroom. And I mean, I really just did more, directed teaching in that sense. So I didn't use slides in that way. And I will definitely, if I get back to the classroom, incorporate Google Slides.
Mhm.
We're going to continue making videos for the students. We're hoping that when we're back, we're able to actually have our students do some of the video recording. So I'm not the focus, they're the focus, and they're helping the rest of the students learn whatever concept we're talking about. And I think the second thing is I'm going to continue to call parents. I'm going to continue to just work on engagement with parents and make sure that they know that even when we're back in school, I'm still here. If you need anything, let me know.
Mhm. Sounds good. Anyone
Done a
else?
whole lot more testing with using the computer to test with the kids, which has made it kind of nice that I've learned how to do that, because that keeps records and everything right there for you. I agree with Monique. The slides have been a great thing that I've learned how to do. And even maybe posting some assignments, and then the kids can work on them with their iPads, at their seats, trying to get more technology into their hands, because that is their future. So I think that has been a good thing for me.
Mhm. Okay, the last question I'm going to ask, because our time is kind of coming to an end. Do you know whether or not the district you're working in is planning on returning face-to-face in the near future? And how is that going to look? What is that going to have the kids in, and have distance learning, or you're all going to be in together, or how is that going to work? Does anybody have any idea? Have you heard, or do you know of any district that's doing that?
Well, our district, I pretty much attend every board meeting that happens because that's where I get my information. Our district, I don't see us returning before January. That's just what I think. And even when we do return, our district is returning in phases. So we're in the first phase now, which everyone's on distance learning. Then we're going to bring, the second phase brings in special needs students, new coming students who speak English, and homeless and foster youth. They will be the first group that's actually phased in a, I'm not sure it's going to be a hybrid situation with them. I'm not sure how that's going to happen. Then the third phase is when the district will bring in all students who want to be in-person learning, because there still will be the choice of distance learning. And the students who are brought in will be a hybrid type of learning. So part of it will be in person and some of it will still be at home, divided into cohorts or groups. I don't know exactly how that's going to look because that's in negotiation with the union. And so things haven't been finalized on that part of it. And then after that, I don't know. I know that our district has been very, they've spent a lot of money to get the classrooms ready. Every classroom is getting a medical grade air purifier. They've put in partitions in areas that are needed. They have signs. They're putting in drinking stations, bottle stations, hand washing stations. I can't imagine how much money is going in to assure the safety for students and staff. I think every child is getting masks, they're getting shields to make sure that everyone is protected once we do return. And we will not return until all those things are in place, not back ordered. The board members are insistent upon that. It has to be there. We're not starting school with maybe it's going to come in 5 weeks. So they really want to make sure that our kids and employees are ready and personally protected.
And so far, it's just a small percentage of our schools that have received any of the ordered equipment, a very small percentage. So we're a large district. It's going to take a while before they have everything in place. So I agree with you, Kim, that it's probably the first of the year, soonest, that those small groups would start back.
Wow.
Well, I know the district where I was working, some teachers will stay online, and then some teachers will be hybrid. And so they're going to split the week between 2 groups, and any students, I believe, that want to stay at home can, but when they're alternating being on campus or online, the teacher said that the suggestion was that they carry their laptop with them. They're still teaching both groups simultaneously. They haven't worked out sufficiently to me a way to record what's happening in the classroom, because you can't carry a laptop all day and teach. But and I will say that some of the teachers who are the ones that are going to stay distance learning, they're going to stay at home, they are teaching students from different school sites. So they might have 3 schools under one teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll stay with that group until I guess they bring everybody back.
That's an interesting solution.
Well, I think it depends on enrollment. So if you have low enrollment in several schools in a certain grade, then everybody in that grade would come together under one teacher. It's digital, so it didn't really affect them in that sense. But in terms of paperwork, grading and all that for the teacher and giving books and things out, they're divided between the 3 schools, so that teachers having to coordinate with 3 school sites to make sure that the kids from all 3 campuses get their books and that kind of thing. There's more administrative work to do in that sense.
Interesting. Anybody heard anything else, or?
Our situation is very similar to what Kim described, the hybrid situation where even at this time, I'm teaching a hybrid A and B class. And so that when that happens, when we do get back together, and we already have a waiver, they've already told us we're going to give you 2 weeks notice, but I have a sense that they're going to try it before January. This is my sense. So there is an option where you can stay at distance learning family, but now the question is, can we stay distance learning teachers? And so there's been a bit of questions about that, because some of us are taking care of people who we don't want exposed. So that's looking really interesting right now. On a personal level, I don't intend to go back. I want to stay as a distance learning teacher.
That's what I was going to ask you. How many of you are willing to go back into the classroom face to face? Okay. The younger of us, the younger.
Exactly.
I know we're not going back before January because we have already been told we'll be prepping for November and December very soon. And
I can understand if you have someone that's in your household who is susceptible, you would not want to be in that situation and bring something back if there's someone in your household that,
Compromised.
That's a good word. Well, I have somebody else before I.
I was just going to say, our district, I just read this morning. I guess they just recently sent a survey to parents to see if they wanted distance learning or in person. So that's going to be interesting. I know our board, there's one in particular, several who are very adamant about teachers also having the choice. If they don't want anyone in the classroom who doesn't want to be there for whatever the reason. And I'm not sure how logistically it's probably going to work out like Carrie. They're might have to switch classrooms, which now I'm not sure all the community that you've built now is going to be starting over, because you're not going to start over with the kids you maybe have established relationships. One district in our area, they gave their parents a third option, and their option was more of an independent study. So the parents would be working as the teachers to the student. They'll be getting their assignments, but once a week they'd meet the teacher, so they would not be doing the live sessions. And some parents are a little bit overwhelmed with that. So with having the live sessions, they've complained it's too many. So that's just a third option that particular district is doing. So.
Well, it has been a very interesting discussion, and I've really enjoyed this. And I hope if we ever have some other topic that you all might be interested in coming back and having, having another panel, because I really enjoyed this talk. Now for the commercial. I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I thank you for your insights on distance learning. And a holistic approach to education is brought to you by A to Z Educational Consultants, transformational leaders bridging the gap between educators and scholars K through 12. We look forward to joining us again. If you'd like more information on today's segment or the A to Z organization, please contact Dorothea Williams at dwilliams@a2z.consultants.com. Thank you for listening.